Hey everybody, this is Pooka bringing you one of my deck breakdowns. Now that Regionals is over, I figured might as well just go through some of the popular decks so that people can get an idea of what competitive decks look like. And now that we have a new set coming out, things are going to change, so there's really no harm here. So the first deck we're going to take a look at is probably the most popular one throughout this Battle Road and Regional format, which is the Hydreigon deck. So we'll just go ahead and take a look at it here. We'll just kind of break down the cards one by one, and I'll explain why I have what I have in here and what the goal of the deck is. So the heart and soul of this deck, of course, is going to be your Hydreigon line. We start off, I have 4 dinos in this deck. I run a split of 2 of the dragon type dino. This one is a Deep Growl. If you're going to run a dragon type one, it's going to be this one just because paralysis can buy you some time. So I run 2 of those and then 2 of the dark ones. Now, why would I run a split? Well, the reason is that weaknesses that the dinos have are actually pretty popular. Fighting, Terrakion, Stunfisk, all sorts of fighting Pokemon are out there. So, Dino is very vulnerable early on if you play the fighting weak one. On the other hand, the Dragon type one is very weak to Rayquaza, the shiny one, that can just knock it out with Dragon Pulse for 1 energy. So, well, it depends on what you're facing. If you're facing a Dragon-type deck, you would go for the one that's weak to fighting. If you're facing a deck that has fighting Pokemon, you go for the Dragon one. That's really the idea. And then we run 1 Zweilous just for a Stage 1 Pokemon, so you can search for it. Your main way to get your Stage 2 out is going to be Rare Candy, but you always run 1 just in case you can't find the Rare Candy. Maybe you set up kind of slowly. This one is probably the best Zweilous just because Draw-In is a nice attack. Really, none of them are that great, but this is useful against decks with Crushing Hammer, so maybe sometimes it'll be useful, but you're very rarely going to attack with Zweilous. Now, Hydreigon is the main part of the deck. From last format, this is pretty much like Kling Klang, where it had the Shift Gear ability that lets you move metal energy around, but this has Dark Trance. It allows you to move dark energy around. So that's a very nice ability. Also, Hydreigon has a great attack, Dragon Blast. It's very expensive, but it's very strong as well. It does 140 damage, which is really nice. So you can use this to attack in a pinch. It's very good for finishing off like EX Pokemon, so you can get 2 prizes. And it has 150 hit points, so it's not easy to knock out. The only things that really knock it out simply are Dragon-type Pokemon, so gotta look out for that. But overall, Hydreigon is a very good Pokemon. The only knock to it is that it is a Stage 2, so it's very difficult to get it into play. Now, your other setup Pokemon here is going to be Sableye. Now, this is probably your preferred starter. Junk Hunt really helps you out by getting 2 item cards back. It'll let you get back stuff like Ultra Ball, Rare Candy, even stuff like Catchers, Dark Patches. There's so much stuff you can get, and Random Receiver as well. So Junk Hunt is what you're going to want to do early on. It'll just kind of help you smooth out your deck so that you don't have as many clunky starts. So Sableye is here. It's a very necessary Pokemon in this deck. I have 3. I could see going to 4. I don't think I would ever go under 3 just because it's that strong. Now your main attacker is going to be Darkrai EX, which of course is probably the best attacker in the game. Night Spear is a very good attack. Does 90 to the active, 30 to a bench Pokemon. And then the nice thing is that Dark Cloak gives everything with dark energy free retreat. So with Hydreigon, you can use Dark Trance to move the energy to the right stuff, give free retreat, or you can use it to move energy off and then Max Potion, very much like the Kling Klang deck from last format. But this is actually a more streamlined version of it, much improved, I believe. So Darkrai, there's not much you need to say about this guy. He gets the job done, he does a lot of damage. Just gotta look out for the fighting weakness. Terrakion is out there. So, just be careful of that. Now, there's room for a couple tech cards in Hydreigon. I choose to go with Mewtwo as one of them. X-Ball is always going to be a very good attack. You can even use Side Drive with this deck, because we have Blend Energy, which I'll get into later. But with Hydreigon, just being able to Dark Trance all of your energy to a Mewtwo and X-Ball for 1 giant knockout is nice to have at your disposal. And this deck can have some problems with a Mewtwo EX from your opponent if they get a ton of energy on it. I've seen people run Sigilyph instead of Mewtwo, but I actually prefer Mewtwo just to give yourself one other big attacker. So I run Mewtwo EX and also Shaman EX. I feel like this is a necessary card in this deck because Revenge Blast is very good against Terrakion, which is weak to grass. So Shaman EX, it's not good early on in the game. It only does more damage when your opponent takes a lot of prizes. But at the end, if they take 5 prizes, you're doing 180 damage with Revenge Blast, which is huge. So Shaman EX is going to be one of the tech cards you're always going to play in this deck because it works very well with the Blend Energy, and it covers your weakness very well. Other tech Pokemon you could maybe include are the Sigilif I mentioned, Virizion with Leaf Wallop, or maybe Bouffalant with Goldbreaker. Those are pretty much all the techs we see with this deck. Now we can go down a little bit, we'll see the trainer section here. It's a little clumped up, but that's alright. We can still see everything here. We're going to start off with the supporters. We have 4 Professor Juniper. This is pretty much just a staple in every deck in this format. Juniper is the best supporter there is, in terms of just straight drawing. So you need to play 4 of those. There's 4N as well. It's just probably the best supporter overall. It's good for disruption. It's especially good in this deck because a lot of the time you're going to be falling behind early. So your Ns are going to be very powerful to get you 6 cards for most of the game and then disrupt your opponent as you start to come back. So there's N, and then Bianca as well, which is just kind of your default 3rd supporter in this format. There's not too much that's good in this format for drawing cards, so there's 2 Bianca here to just kind of round out the supporter line, and then 2 Random Receiver as well, just because it's good with Sableye, to use Junk Hunt for it. It really helps out your consistency. I've seen people go with more Random Receivers, that's perfectly fine. Maybe cut a Bianca, or even cut one of these other cards for another Random Receiver to give yourself a little more consistency. I don't mind that at all. But now let's get into the items. These are usually the important part of your deck. We have 4 Ultra Ball. That's pretty standard. Not only does it allow you to search for your Pokemon, it helps you to get your Dark Energy in the discard pile so that you can use your Dark Patch for them. Now this will really speed up your energy in this deck. It's the one thing that the Kling Klang deck did not have, energy acceleration, so Dark Patch really helps in that regard. So I play 3 Dark Patch in this deck. Usually you would like to have 4 in Darkrai decks, but you can get away with 3 in this one. You don't really have the space to run 4. You really have to cut back on some stuff in here because you need to run Max Potion, which is really the whole point of your deck. You start to come back because you can heal off your Pokemon with Max Potion. So you have 3 of those as well. I can see going to 4, but again, space is an issue. We do have 4 Catcher, which, 4 Catcher is standard. It's just the best item we have. It's ridiculously good. It wins games. So you pretty much have 4 in everything. I could see going down to 3, but you're probably going to regret it. Most of the time, you're going to want all 4 Catchers in a game. Now we have 3 Rare Candy as well. Again, you would want 4 normally, but you can only fit so many things. So 3 Rare Candy gets the job done. As long as you can get 1 Hydreigon into play, usually, you're going to end up winning. So 3 Rare Candy gets the job done. And then we have 2 Eviolites, which are pretty standard as well. Very good on Darkrai to avoid getting knocked out by Terrakion, Retaliating, or Land Crushing. So we have 2 Eviolites. You could go up to 3 here. This is just a very good card. I've seen some people actually not play it at all. That's acceptable too. It's risky when you're facing Terrakion, but you can do that too. And then for my 1 tech item, I run a Tool Scrapper, just because I'm really afraid of decks like Garbodor. Just being locked down, not being able to use abilities is a pain, and sometimes getting rid of an Eviolite can win you a game. So I run 1 Tool Scrapper, just in case of that kind of stuff. You could replace this with all sorts of stuff, like Switch, you can bump up any of these items up to 4. There's all sorts of things. This is usually where people have trouble with the deck. It's just too difficult to fit everything into 1 deck. So this is just what I run. It's not set in stone what you should be doing, but it's just to give you an idea of what I have. And then for the energy, it's pretty simple. Just have 8 basic darkness energy. Apparently I don't own these. But there's 8 basic darkness energy. You just need those to attack. You need enough to get them in the discard pile for Dark Patch. And you also need enough to use Hydreigon's Dragon Blast. So you could go down to like 7, but it's kind of risky. I like 8 as a solid number. And then you run 4 Blend Energy as well to allow you to attack with Shaymin EX with the Grass, and then Hydreigon with the Psychic. So Blend is very, very good in this deck because you can move it around. It's a Dark type, so you can move it with Dark Trance, but it also gives you access to Grass and Psychic, and I suppose some Fire Pokemon, but we don't see that too often. So that's going to wrap up this deck breakdown. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. It's pretty much all there is to it here. It's just a straightforward Darkrai Hydreigon deck. No real tricks. Straight to the point. Very powerful once it gets set up. So, if you haven't tried it out yet, I would encourage you to do so. And that's really just all I got to say about this. So, thanks for watching, guys. I should probably have some more deck breakdowns soon. But until then, I'm Pooka, and I will see you next time.